Viewers, this is kind of a quick tutorial how to wire up an OakStills single element controller. I ordered this controller, kind of struggled trying to figure out how to do this, and ultimately I did some look online. Brews and Hops was a tremendous help. But anyway, so let's just get into it here. This is a 55 kilowatt 230 amp immersion heater, low density, and I'll go through and kind of show you what I got going on here. But essentially I had an old 30 amp cable that was sitting around that was for marine use. As you can see, I had to cut these ends off because it was originally for 30 amp 125 volt, but that's not going to work. And kind of due to my calculations here, I know that 55 kilowatts on this immersion heating element, ultimately, depending on your amperage or your voltage, if I'm around 220 on the low end, I can draw as much as about 25 amps. And using 10-3 wire, I'm good for a little over 30 feet at that type of an amperage draw. So that said, let's get into it. I went ahead and I cut both ends off of this 10-3 wire. Now this is stranded, it's not solid core. And I picked up this fitting here for Lowe's. Now this is 50 amp fitting. It is not a 30 amp. Most of the stuff that I have in here in my garage, I have set up for welding. So I just used a 50 amp plug. Now, is this 100% correct? No. I probably should have used a 30 amp plug, but that's not what I have in my garage. So your mileage may vary. Go ahead and pick up a 30 amp 230 type of plug that fits the receptacle that you have. But that said, don't exceed 30 amps really for this type of a setup here. So this is the controller that came. Kind of looks nice. I haven't fired it up yet, but ultimately I'll show you how I wired this in here. So I cut the end off of this, right? Ran this cable up. It comes in through here. And you can see that I split it off here and went ahead and ran the white and the black to the power source into this little circuit breaker box here. And then over here is part of the controller. You got a potentiometer. You got a display that shows you roughly how many amps you're dialing up or down. On the front of this, this light's going to come on when it's on. This is obviously an on-off switch. And so a lot of this was pre-wired by them, so I just really had to supply the power cord, if you will, the actual hard wiring. So again, so the hot and the white, or the white and the black wires are going to be my hot wires. Each one's going to carry 110 volts. And then the green wire here I'm using as a ground. Now that said, since this is 230, technically, you don't really need a ground, if you will, and you'd still be safe. Again, a shout out to Brew and Hops for explaining that. Essentially, on each phase of each leg of the 110 leg is on, the other one is off. So it kind of creates its own, neutral, if you will. But that said, safety for me always first. So I went ahead and added some grounding. So to that note, I went ahead and hooked both of these wires here. I grounded that to this metal case as well. And then to the lid, I went ahead and there was already bolts that were on here that were already pre-welded. I added a jumper cable from the lid down here to the box as well. So everything that's green, is obviously a ground for me here. So that way the lid is grounded to the box, and both of these wires are grounded. So that said, you can see in here that I brought in my lead that goes to my immersion heater. Staying kind of consistent here. I got my white, there we go, my white and my black lead coming out of there, and that comes all the way out and then goes up to my actual immersion heater here. And so it's you've got a hot on each one of the two sets of terminals, one white, one black, each carrying 110 volts. And then this stud is welded to the actual tri-cant clamp fitting. I guess that's the right name for it. And ultimately that go ahead and it grounds that. So it'll ground my pot. Everything has got a ground then for me because I just went ahead and and I added, an extra nut here, and I went ahead and grounded that out. So that said, there's some things I had to buy to do this. So just to be clear, put it all out here. I'm gonna do a quick picture of the stuff I had to go and buy. The first one, the little nut that is at the top of this. Everything in here is metric. This little nut right here. Boy, it's a horrible shot. Sorry about that. This little nut right here, right? So that is a M5 by 0.8 nut. And I bought a couple M5 washers as well. It was just a few bucks. And then these M6 by 1.0 whiz nuts, right? These are all metric, again, stainless steel. These are the nuts here that fit these studs here. So I bought a couple extra. So I go ahead and put this jumper cable in here and here. And I think I just had an extra one here. The other thing that you'll see is 4-inch cable ties, just to kind of clean stuff up. I put a couple cable ties in there so it looks nice. And then for all my connections, I went ahead and bought these ring terminals and these spade terminals. They're number 14s. I got them at Lowe's. So here's the one. That's the spade terminal. Just make sure you're good for 1210 wire. And then these ring terminals, here's that one as well. And then this one, just make sure you're good for an 810 stud. So a couple of the tools or a couple of the kind of notes. The nuts on this to get off so I could go ahead and secure the power leads to it. I needed a 7mm wrench for that. And then, just, an assortment of just a 10mm, for tightening down those whiz nuts, in here. And then from all my crimping, I used this Titan. This worked really well. I've had this around for quite a while. I got this off Amazon. That is an 11477. And really this last fitting with the yellow on it worked fantastic. Some of the best crimps I've ever had. A lot of times I'll solder. I didn't solder on this. These were just really good. I was very impressed. And then of course, just make sure that you have, a decent wire stripper that'll let you, I don't know if I can focus that or not, that'll let you, go ahead and strip, 10 gauge wire. So anyway, that's kind of it. I'm looking forward to kicking this on and seeing how well this works. But just a quick summary, again, 230 volt, both two hots on each leg here. These 3 legs are hooked together for each one. And then a ground. Everything else is kind of self-explanatory, I think. Again, there wasn't a whole lot on the net, so that's why I wanted to make this and put that out there. And so far, this seems to be a fantastic product. Everything that I saw from OakStills up to this point has just been absolutely incredible. So that's my short review. Sorry for it. I'm not a film guy, but I hope this helps somebody.